What if I were to suggest that you play a key role in the awakening world? And that you are watching this because you have heard the call. We can start right now by opening our hearts and minds. Welcome to the awakening world.
Hey, good evening, everybody. I am Love Coach Scott Catamas. Welcome to the Awakening World. And I want to welcome all of our friends, our regulars that are in the Zoom room. And I want to welcome all of you watching on Facebook. And the majority of you who are watching either on Facebook or on one of our broadcast partners, the Conscious Awakening Network, Humanities Team, Unify, YouTube, Alan Steinfeld's YouTube channel, or our own Global Peace Tribe YouTube channel. Wherever you are, however you're watching, welcome. It's good to have you with us. And I want to invite you to actually come and join us in the Zoom room because we're going to have a very dynamic conversation tonight. Our guest, in fact, the only guest that we have on the show tonight, is a woman that I have such tremendous respect for. And I'm talking about Larisa Stow. And I'm going to actually bring Larisa up so you can see her. And Larisa is someone that I actually met through Saturday Night Live. We've kind of been in similar circles, but we got to know each other in the pandemic by doing shows together. And I've really fallen in love with her work, the beautiful work around the we evolution, her consciousness, her commitment to community. And we were having a conversation recently that led to this show, which is how can we really manage those differences so we don't have to choose one community over another, one tribe over another, one person over another. And that's what we're going to be talking about tonight. And it's, I think all of us have gone through that during are you Republican or Democrat? Are you wearing a mask or not wearing a mask? Are you doing social distancing or not? Are you vaccinated or not? I mean, those are all things that people had strong opinions about. And God forbid if your opinion is different than someone else's, and then we polarize. So we're going to talk about how to manage that tonight.
Yeah, thank you for having me, Scott. It's wonderful to see everybody here. See this beautiful community. I miss you all. So it's good to see your faces and to be with you and in this conversation. I think this is such an important conversation for us to continue, because we're challenged. We're very challenged, and we're seeing that, continuing to happen in the world. Yeah. Although I think that people are starting and to open back up again more. I see that happening more, like, okay, but it's still something that we struggle with as we're moving from this older paradigm of thinking of competition and us versus them. And, we've been indoctrinated. So how do we move out of that conversation? How do we move in our hearts and our bodies into that new earth that we talk about, where we do come together?
And we want to hear from you, our audience, on this. What are your thoughts? What are your comments? What are your questions? Dorina Joy, by the way, has just pointed out that today is Fresh Vegetable Day and Wish Fulfillment Day. So those are two healthy things that good to be in. So, join us in the chat box. And for those of you watching on Facebook or YouTube or one of our broadcast partners, I want to invite you right now, join the Global Peace Tribe. And by joining the Global Peace Tribe, you can then come into our Zoom room, and it's easy to do that. Just go to globalpeacetribe.com, globalpeacetribe.com. When you get there, you can learn all about all the different shows that we do and click register for the new season. And that'll take you to our registration page. And it's, well, I'll keep clicking and it's not taking me to the registration page. There we go. It'll take you to the registration page. We do 2 or 3 shows every week. Plus we now do a meditation every night. And so there's a lot that we offer. And this is the show you are watching right now, The Power of Acceptance in Order to Unify. And then on Saturday night, we are celebrating the Bhakti Love Festival with Jaya Tal, Jaya Lakshmi, several wonderful people, Donna Delory. So that's our shows this week. But join us, you'll get the Zoom room links right away so you can come into our Zoom room and join Larisa and I for this important conversation. Larisa, do you want to share a little bit about some of the pain that you've experienced around separation and the impact of separation when people kind of want to force us to choose or to, you got to do this or you got to do that? Is that something you feel comfortable sharing?
I mean, yeah. I mean, it's been challenging for me to be in the world of bhakti and devotion. And there's been it's challenging seeing these different camps come up a lot of times of seeing and experiencing where we're being made to choose where we're going to share our devotion in the world. And I know it's not only in our world as well, it's everywhere. And it's painful to be put in that position of having to choose where we align with. And yeah, it's weighed heavily on my heart. And I'm not one to want to go into like the full and background of, bringing everybody into it, but it's been painful. I've seen and talked to other artists that feel the same way, that we're here to just serve. We're here to be in the bhav, to be in devotion. And a lot of times we're put in positions where it's like, if we want to do this festival, we can't do that festival. And it's challenging because we just want to show up and serve our community and serve each other, in the highest. And it's challenging. Yeah, it's weighed on my heart heavily.
Something you and I have in common is we're both community builders. You are building you have an online community, you have the Shakti Love Warriors, and of course you're building community in Sedona. And I can now bring her on, our co-host and my good friend, Trish, who's also a community builder. And it's Wednesday night, which means it's Trish night. And Trish, just go right into what are some of your thoughts about tonight's topic and maybe some of the challenges you've also faced where people are polarizing over differences.
Well, I think that people want to belong. I think that there is a desire to have community. And oftentimes people will create community around things that they dislike or things that they don't understand or things that they're afraid of. And or things that that inspire a lot of emotion, that they'll create community with people who share those similar thoughts or viewpoints. That is the in-group, right? That's your in-group bias. And a lot of the time, I think that we forget that, and it doesn't happen just within this community. It happens in all communities, you know, like, I mean, I could go into all of them, you know, different religious communities will also have the in-group holier than thou righteous piece, or the very spiritual communities will have the holier than thou righteous piece. It's the political groups or the whatever you name them. And I think that people, again, people are so desperate for community and belonging that we'll grasp a hold of things that feel sort of safe.
Mhm.
Right. And so when it comes down to the full expression of, and seeing someone in their expression of their own humanity, of their own life, of their own humanness, I think it can be really complicated because we have ideas of what we want. And we don't have skills or tools as an earthly or global community to really find compassion and understanding for each other. Right. So, gosh, being a kind of a weird, queer, theatrical nerd who's kind of like, ooh, that kind of freaks me out. Let's look at it. Let's touch it. You know, like, it's kind of one of those things that people are like, you're a little much. And I've often not fit into many communities because of that, you know, because I maybe, you know, express that I'm polyamorous at moments of my life, or that I like women in some parts of my life, or like, you know, because people want to connect, that sometimes they don't understand why. Right. So my parents would be like, whoa, you're doing that thing again. Or certain communities would be like, you're not queer enough for the queer kids. Because I'm kind of a lazy queer. I don't like to dye my hair. I don't have piercings. I don't really look that, I'm just lazy. I'm like, oh, you know what I mean? And I also, you know, people will say, oh, you're not spiritual enough because you don't meditate every day. Try meditating with ADHD. So instead of getting curious about my lived experience, or instead of getting curious about another person's lived experience, we have a judgment on them because we're afraid inside of ourselves, because we could never allow ourselves to do those things, right? So I think what the world really does need is to find that curiosity again. That, you know, there is the C in compassion could be curiosity. It's like, what is your experience, Larisa? What is your experience, Scott? Maybe like the like really flamboyant gay kid that just walked by, of like, hey, what is your experience on the planet? It may not be mine. It's certainly probably not mine. But can I still meet you as a human to human? Can you have wildly radical political beliefs? And can I still be in human community with you? Yeah.
I say yes. I say, like, it's so much more interesting. That's the whole thing. It's like we don't really learn and grow in the same capacity if we surround ourselves with people that are just like us, right? I mean, we tend to feel more safe and we feel more comfortable, but when we surround ourselves with people that might, you know, push our buttons and trigger us in different ways, we learn and we grow. We have to grow in new ways in order to understand, in order to see, in order to meet and be met. And like, I would never think, you know, the way I see, the way I perceive, you know, is pretty consistent. And when I meet somebody who thinks completely different than I do, then it opens up how I perceive. I get this gift of perceiving completely different, like, oh my God, I never saw it like that. I never thought of it like that. So, you know, it up levels imagination, creativity, you know, when we open ourselves up to each other. Like I'm straight, but I have so many gay friends. Like my world is just filled, and I so enjoy having and learning, this different ways of being. It's just it's nourishing and it's expanding, it's soul expanding, you know.
It
I so appreciate it. Like I so appreciate it. And I wish the world, it's like, okay, like you're saying, like curiosity is such a huge piece of this. And our vulnerability is such a huge piece of this. And having compassion, respect for each other. It's like all those, the reason why in my community, I'm like, okay, putting together like the 6 global agreements to have something that it's like we can aspire to, like how do we even begin to accept each other and open to each other and unify when we're so different, which thank God we're so different.
One of the things that I think about a lot is there's 2 things. One thing that I think about a lot is how most of our wants and needs, like the fears that come up or the judgments that come up are really based in wants and needs, right? And they're often like how we present them are often strategies to get those met, right? And it really, really boils down to we all really want the same things. It's just our strategies are wildly different. Sometimes I think about, I know a lot of people who are very much different political leaning than maybe some of us here. And I often just sit back and I'm thinking about it and I'm like, I think they also want safety and freedom.
Yes. It just looks
like,
different.
Yeah, it just looks different, like full on different. And then the other piece about it is that it really forces us to look at ourselves. Like if we stop and take a deep breath, like, whoa, I'm inflamed right now about whatever judgment is coming up for me. What is it about me right now in the moment? What is it triggering in me? Taking deep breath and actually trying to connect to the humanity of that other person or those other people.
That's huge.
It is huge. And I just want to go back to curiosity for a moment. We've said it a few times. First, Trish said it. Eleanor put it in big caps in the chat box. It's a discipline. It really is a discipline to notice, when am I in judgment? When am I, and to really practice, when am I judging another person because they have a different belief system than I do, or whatever the judgment might be. And then pivot into curiosity. And a wonderful practice that's helped me to do that. And I actually learned how to do this 25 years ago when I was in a very difficult situation. And I was surrounded by a lot of people very different than I'd ever been with before. Was when I saw somebody and I would notice, okay, I'm having judgment, I would say, there's God fully experiencing itself as that person. Or you can really go for it and say, there I am fully experiencing myself as that person, if you have kind of a oneness view of the world. And that's really helped me. It's really helped me to like get the bigger picture that God wants to experience everything it can imagine. And so it imagines everyone from Donald Trump to the Pope to Larisa Stow to Trish Wright. We're all imaginings of the one eternal beloved. We're all drops in that same ocean. And to start there and then get curious, okay, what's it like being Larisa Stow? What's it like being this person with their epigenetics and their physical body and their cultural background and their, all those things, and just get fascinated and curious.
Can I rant for a second?
Please, rant away.
Here's the thing that I find most challenging about sort of where we're at in our community construction or deconstruction is that we make people wrong. So we've heard about cancel culture, right? And what happens when we cancel someone, when we say, you're bad and wrong,
Yeah.
or you're not good enough to be loved, or God doesn't love you, we're actually creating the same form of dehumanization that patriarchal white supremacy, colonization, and all of these historical structures have created about other people. So it's very, like, it's a very fine line to choose actively not to do that. Because what can happen is that when we're judging someone, we're literally creating little dehumanizations of this other person.
Mm-hmm.
We're making them less than.
Yes.
How wildly arrogant to say you are less than because I am morally superior.
Right.
Morals are purely human. That all of this stuff is made up.
Mm-hmm. Total human construct, completely.
So if we were going to construct anything, we have the opportunity to actually like pull our britches up and be like, okay, let's construct something that's loving, that leaves room for everyone, that chooses to see murderers and rapists as even lovable.
Yes.
I did a course called Counseling Abusers not so long ago. We got to meet two people who had murdered their wives. And this was part of the, was it Minnesota or Michigan? I don't know. It was something, some state, but it was kind of adjacent to the correctional system. And I come in with my compassion moments, I'm like really thinking about this compassionately. And I'm asking them, just really trying to gain understanding. And these, like, the people in charge were like, why are you asking these questions? And I am like, I'm just trying to get clarity of like their human anger or their frustrations or their motivations. And it occurred to me that the strategies that they learned how to protect themselves or how their identity were really just strategies that we all learned or we stuffed. And it was just something that they didn't know how to deal with. So what if we instead learned how to be compassionate, curious, learned how to effectively utilize conflict as deepeners, and created communities around this? Like, this is possible. Absolutely. If we want it.
If we so choose, it's absolutely possible. And you're so right on. I mean, that piece, when it started happening, the whole cancel culture, like I was just like, it's so bizarre to watch that the very thing that people are doing is actually creating more of what we say we don't want,
Yeah.
and you can tell, like, it's pretty easy to tell where that the intention is coming from, because you can feel if it's coming from the head or the heart. And that's what I notice every time. It's like, if somebody is coming just from the head and like, this is the right thing, this is the wrong thing, good, bad, right, wrong, what they don't understand is that coming from the mind without the heart is the very thing that creates war. It's the very thing that separates loved ones from each other. It's where judgment, begins and the love ends. That's what I see, where that judgment starts to take over the love. And that is where we actually see where, like, what we call evil, the only thing that I really understand is like evil is just when our mind is cut off from our heart. That's where we get into that slippery slope. So I think that's a really important conversation. The whole thing about cancel culture, and we have all these ideas about what's right and wrong, but if it's not coming from a place of deep love and compassion, we got to be really clear and aware that we're leaning now, into a space of polarization, a place of dehumanization, objectification of humans, which is what happened in Nazi Germany. It's what we see happening in communism, like where people get caught up, in being for the state, being for the government, and putting that over their families because it's this versus this. So we know if we just feel into it that we can come back into alignment if we just come back into the heart.
I want to riff on that for a moment. You know, Marshall Rosenberg taught that if we want to create peace in the world, we start by eliminating all enemy images.
Yeah.
And anytime we look at somebody and we think, what an asshole, what an idiot, what a bitch, we have just dehumanized that person. And that's what you talked about going to war. That's what happens when you go to war. You dehumanize the enemy, right? It's no longer Raisuli or Abdul or Mohammed. It's the evil terrorists.
Yep.
It's no longer Hans or Peter or Jürgen. It's the dirty Nazis, right? But we also do that anytime we assign an enemy image to anyone in our world. And so now as a tool, as a beautiful tool, and thank you, Marshall Rosenberg, let's all notice, when do I do that? When do I think or even speak that somebody in my world is, name your judgmental word, right? And then underneath that, what we want to do, because if we think somebody's acting like a jerk, well, they're probably engaging in a behavior or making a choice that doesn't meet our values. And that's okay. That's one thing. But we don't have to dehumanize them in the process.
Yeah.
You get to choose whether or not to wear a mask. You get to choose whether or not to get vaccinated. Right? You get to choose who you're going to vote for. And it's okay if I disagree with your choice, but it's not okay for me to dehumanize you because of your choice.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Yeah, thank you.
Marshall. Thank you, Marshall
and
Rosenberg.
thank you, Marshall, and because it's all grounded in love and in compassion. I mean, it comes back to that, and it seems so simple. Like it's like, because we get so caught up in the moment, we get so triggered in that moment. Sometimes it's hard to feel or to navigate because we're in that reptilian part of our brain. It's like, am I in my heart? Do I still feel compassion for this person? That is a question. Can I be triggered and still feel compassion for?
Yeah.
Show up in the face of.
Well, that also takes practice, and when we stop dehumanizing ourselves.
Yep.
Exactly. Yeah. Anytime we go, oh my God, I'm such an idiot, I just dehumanized myself.
There's so many. So in a capitalistic democracy, our bodies are utilized as objects, machinery of a certain to keep the system going. This is how it is. And so to do that, we see our bodies as machines. So as we age, we say, oh, I'm aging, and we do these things, and we get all weird about the natural process of the collagen in our body fading and our telomeres shortening. Like, this is pretty natural, right? And then we also start judging ourselves about our weight and our hair color and our preferences on whatever, or our intellect, and we start literally judging and dehumanizing bits of ourselves. And so, Scott, you taught me this, is to really sit with these places in me that I judge, because it's here where we actually have access to seeing other people in their humanity, right? So when I say, oh, there I am doing that thing that I do again, whatever it could be, you name the thing that annoys you about you. You just name it for yourself. Because I also do the same things. Don't worry. You just name it. Oh, I wish I had that thing that people do where they drop their keys on the thing and it's in the front door. Like, I wish I had that thing. I've tried for 4 years, 5 years even. I don't have that thing. It's so annoying to me. Ah, what an idiot. No, it's just not the way it works for me. That's okay. I got this. but you're really good at it. So what other things? Like, I love the way that you're aging, and the how your skin is starting to crinkle, and the wisdom looks on your face. Or, oh, hey, I love this little belly that you got. Like, hey, body, you're doing a good thing. Hey, brain, you're doing that weird thing where you're, or hey, you're doing that obsessive thing because you really want safety. It really is about looking at the way, getting curious about you, getting curious and compassionate about you, so that we can show up when Larisa always puts the keys on the thing, and this one time you didn't put the keys on the thing, and we really need the keys. And I'm gonna be like, oh God, like, what am I talking about? I can't even put the keys on the thing. You're like, oh, it's all right, love. Let's just sit here, take a deep breath, and we'll work it out together. It's just a more loving approach. Hey, I love that. I love how your hair is getting very white, Scott. And I love how, you know what I mean? It really is looking at people as people, not as things, people who aren't us. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yes. Yes, it does. Yeah. It's the bridge, having compassion for the self, having curiosity for the self. That radical self-acceptance is the thing that it's the bridge to having acceptance of others, when you learn how to have that for yourself, and when you're willing to look at your own stuff too, like, honestly, looking at your own neuroses, but with compassion, with curiosity and compassion. That's the thing, to look at yourself in the mirror and see all those things about yourself and recognize, yep, I got that going on. Yeah, I get a bit emotional. Yeah, I can get depressed about this or that. Then I don't show up as in judgment of others, who can get really emotional, right? Or in fact, I'm like, yep, I completely understand that over there. Been there, been that, right? And it makes it so much easier. I think it's when there are people that we don't like, if there's parts of ourselves that maybe we don't experience, that makes it a lot more challenging to have compassion. Like, somebody else is like an alien to us, in a sense, right? I think that's the part that becomes a lot more challenging for people. Like, well, I would never do that. I would never do that. Therefore, that's bad because I would do that, or I would never look at it or feel that way about it.
I hear that one all the time in couples that I work with, all the time. There's this idea that because I wouldn't do that and you did it, you're bad. And we have to understand we all are coming from such completely different cultural backgrounds.
Yes.
Of what is appropriate and what's not appropriate, what's spiritual and what's not spiritual. What's sexy to one person is pornographic to another. What's beautiful to one person is gross to another. And again, it comes back over and over to curiosity and acceptance, the power of acceptance.
Yes.
Trish is going to finger.
I know. I'm just going to give everyone this tool. I don't think I made it up. I'm certain I didn't make it up, but somewhere over the pandemic, I got this wild hair to do this thing, this meditation, that I was like, I'm just going to do this. And I took people in the news. I took situations in the news, and I would see if I could sit in presence as that person. And so whatever was happening in the news, I did it with some really, really spicy things in the news. So take something in the news now, something pretty tragic, and I would be the victim. I would be the perpetrator. I'd be the police. I'd be their family. And I would sit for hours in becoming this person. What does it feel like? What are their wants, needs, and values? What is the strategy to get their need met here? What is happening? And I would sit long enough to find myself feeling calm. It was really challenging to be cops that killed people and their families and their children and the protesters. But I sat with that because I wanted to understand, because I chose, again, it's all fabricated in my mind, right? But you get enough information to actually sit in empathy with them. Can I be with this? Can I be with the discomfort that is real life? And can I make it human?
I so appreciate that. I think that would be such a wonderful experiential exercise for most of us to do, to really feel into that. I've done that. Like, I've specifically watched interviews with psychopaths because I wanted to understand and put myself in their shoes. And I gained a lot of understanding from watching these interviews. I can't demonize a psychopath. I can't do it after watching these interviews, because it's like they don't have a certain peace. You know, they don't have that peace, and it creates frustration within them that they don't relate, and that they've been challenged in their lifetime trying to fit in and trying to pretend that they feel and care about people, and that they have to practice smiling. Like, it's just like looking at themselves in a mirror and smiling, and so they don't make people uncomfortable, and all that must go along with that. It's like, you know, we just assume that when we look at a psychopath that they're an evil person, and that's not necessarily true at all. I mean, and when we say evil, what is evil? Like, when people act upon things that are horrific, that create terror, you know, we think of that as evil. But I would say some people would even put evil on a lot of give that label to other people. But when you dig in there, you get a new understanding of humanity, that we're not all wired the same way. We're not all made the same way. And if we're not made that way, then can't we honor that maybe that's not what's supposed to be? That if we have psychopaths on the planet, we have sociopaths, that's a part of humanity as well. That's God as well, choosing in this moment not to have emotion, not to have that feeling of connection in that way, to want to understand how that shapes consciousness too.
You know, there's an example of that, you know, when you talk about like really studying someone that we've been trained to demonize. And several years ago, a friend of mine sent me a YouTube link. I'm sure it's still available. Of course, Saddam Hussein is someone that we got a lot of programming about being an evil guy, and he probably was a pretty terrible person who did terrible things. And when he was finally brought to justice or whatever, they hung him. And there is a video, one of the guards there shot on his camera a video of Saddam Hussein, like in the final 2 minutes of his life, as they're putting the rope around his neck and they're getting ready to do it. And it was such a practice for me to just see the extraordinary humanity of this man doing his best to maintain his dignity while about to be hung. And all of a sudden, after, you know, years of Saddam Hussein, this horrible, evil person who, again, probably did do terrible things, my heart just broke wide open for this man who's about to be hung, you know. And you know, that was kind of my experience of that, where, you know, like, okay, studying the sociopath, dropping into the horror. And my sweet mother's voice comes to my mind whenever my mother and I would see something hard. She'd say, "But for the grace of God, there go I. But for the grace of God, there go I." And that's when we're seeing that sociopath or that person who's doing something horrible, who is in so much pain or is so deluded or so lost. But for the grace of God, there go I. How fortunate we are to be awakening, to have community, to have these conversations. Speaking of which, I want to include a few of our chat roomers. Jeffrey Colebrook, Reverend Jeffrey, just wrote, "It is helpful to try and operate as souls first and see others as souls in the process of evolution." Dia Therese wrote, "This is an invaluable discussion. Thank you each and all." Sylvia wrote, "I am grateful for the Awakening World and other online communities. And in the midst of that, I see emerging from capitalist conditioning as a big piece, learning to listen with the planet and a variety of beings beyond human, beyond words, beyond image, beyond technology." Thank you, Sylvia.
I'd like to go into a moment of really talking about this idea of good, bad, which is also a human-made idea. And in many religions, in many political social structures throughout history, they use religion to create this good, bad, human, non-human. And a lot of the good, bad, on a psychological level, we'll just talk about the DSM for a second, is the people that they were studying that were normal were wealthy, were white, and generally men, educated. And so anybody who did not fit into the norm of the time would be considered bad, degenerate. So poor people who were, involved in crime would be considered bad. Well, they were poor. There's been hundreds and hundreds of studies that say that poverty is one of the things that create crime and violence. This is just a thing that we know, right? So when we're thinking about good and bad, and when we're deeming someone good and bad, or behavior is good and bad, we're again chopping at their humanity and our own. We're continuing to see, again, you can have your own morals and your own values that you live by. That's your integrity. And that there are people who live in different parts of the country or even the world that have their own integrity, and that's what they're living on. Yes, again, I'm not saying that we should perpetuate violence or harm or murder or any of those things. I'm just making a point that there are 8.3 billion people on this planet, which means that there's at least 10,000 or 10 billion realities, give or take. However many people might have multiple realities living in their being, it's at least 10 billion realities based on structures, ideas, identities, communities, family beliefs, social beliefs, things that they sign online, fears that they hold. That when we can stop and say, there is no good and bad, there is just humans doing human stuff. Some of it I don't agree with. Much of it I don't agree with, that I would never do. And they will do regardless of whether I am really pissy about it or not. But can I still see them? Can I hold them? Can I hug them there?
And can we allow them to have their expression if it's completely different than our own expression, and have that be a valid expression? What if God wants this full spectrum experience to really understand and to grow, to take that love into as deep as it can go into the density of this world? How do we actually embody love? Because I believe we come from love and we return to love because we are love. I believe that with everything on the inside of me. I know when I go into oneness, it's just it's total and complete love. So choosing to create ourselves as this human to me, it's like a complete choice that God makes. Like God's like, I want to get in the body. I want to take love into these places, into this density as far as I can take it. I want to have this opportunity to remember love in all these places and to experience everything. So if there are those who can't feel love in this lifetime, that gives the rest of us that have the opportunity to meet those people or come up against that to then deepen our love and deepen our compassion. Can we still be love in the face of when there's not a reflection of that? And it's so provocative to think of it like that, and to really try that on rather than seeing, this good versus evil that we have really been attached to for a very long time. But I feel like that creating these ideas of good and evil and right and wrong has almost been constructed to keep us apart and to oppress, in the sense of being able to push us in this direction and that direction, because if we can be oppressed and if we can be separated, then we can be used.
Yes,
Mhm.
that is part of the structure of dehumanization. Straight up.
Yeah.
If
So
there is,
how do we take our power back, right?
We practice the 6 global agreements.
yes,
I did post it in the chat box. I could even pull it up and show it if you wanted to, because I think, of course, there are many visions for, how to do things, and many wonderful new ways that are going out into the world. And I think you really have nailed it with your beautiful 6 global agreements. And I'm wondering if you feel inspired to share those with people tonight.
Yeah, and I wonder how many of our people here, have heard of the 6 global agreements. But for me, it's such a guiding light in my life. Like with myself, I can personally say that in writing these down, it's like I have to hold myself accountable to these, and it's been a really powerful tool. Number one, it's like plugging into source daily. If I look at the 6 global agreements, I think that is like imperative. And when we say source can just be love. Like, what has you plug into love? And for me, it's like forgiveness work. For me, it's riding the dragon. So it's a moving meditation rather than just a straight. I like to think of a lot of meditation as kind of like a disembodied, like I'm in my head and I'm trying to get out of the body. But for me, it's like, no, I want to get into the body. I'm choosing to be in my body and to bring love into my body. So for me, riding the dragon is like, it's moving the body, it's getting in. And we all have our different ways of doing that. It could be Qigong, whatever that looks like for you. Yoga. Number 2 is cultivating courageous vulnerability. So being willing to like just put your heart, your beliefs on the line so that people can understand where you're coming from, but taking off that mask and having compassion for ourselves. Because when we show up with that courageous vulnerability, it's deep compassion for the self. So I think that's super important. It creates intimacy with one another and ourselves. Number 3 is lead with compassionate curiosity, which is what we've been talking about, right? So putting ourselves in the shoes of others and getting curious about what created those conditions for how they're showing up and the choices that they're making in life. That gives us so much more of an understanding when we're curious to understand another. Number 4 is practicing that radical self-acceptance. So that looks different for all of us, but I know for myself, it's like really accepting the parts of myself that don't feel good enough, that don't feel worthy, that we're talking about, that don't feel smart enough. The aging piece, like accepting my own vanity, like having compassion for my own vanity rather than making it wrong. And that has given me, so much more of a place to be able to have compassion for others. It's like I can't judge anybody else because I'm really clear about, my own stuff, and having compassion, making that okay. And number 5 is respecting each other. And we were talking about that as well. Like respecting that we're different, that we may not see the same way, and it's okay. And to be able to just receive that the world is going to, through their experiences, through their conditioning, they're going to experience life differently, and just how they were made. Some of us are nerdy, some of us are creatives, some of us are very logical, and some of us, you couldn't make us think, anything in the box. So respecting that we're all different. And number 6 is honestly my favorite, other than maybe number 1. And that is playing together. Really playing together, rather than thinking through the mindset of, okay, we have goals and how are we going to get this done together, but rather with whatever we're creating, to feel that sense of play. Like we're playing with the Global Peace Tribe. We're here having this conversation, because we're having fun exploring this conversation together. And those are my 6 global agreements that I give so much gratitude to those who came before me, because I didn't really come up with these on my own. It's just these 6 different tenets that we know really work, and just putting them in a format and agreeing as a collective that yes, we're going to agree to work on these together, and what a difference that makes in community when we say yes to these together.
Beautiful. And again, I put in the chat box. This is why those of you watching on Facebook want to come join Global Peace Tribe. But here they are, the 6 global agreements. And obviously, she did a wonderful job of giving you the description of each one of these. I mean, this is something to print out and put up on your wall, look at it on a regular basis, because if we do those things, first of all, they all feel good. Okay. It feels good to do these things. It enlivens our spirit. It will help us to live longer and happier and healthier. I love you, 6 global agreements. I really do. Trish, any thoughts you'd like to add?
I love those. I think that they're very connective to self and connective to others. And that's, I think, Larisa, I think you really have it right, is that to stay in connection, to stay from the heart. There's many ways to say that. So.
Yeah.
I want to say one thing. Do you want to play?
Yes. I love to play.
I'm hearing.
Yes, please. Yeah, it's the best, right? It's the best when we're like, okay, and humor, so play, bringing in humor as we move through all this in life is so important, especially with all the heaviness we all experience and all the grief we experience. It's so important to find the humor and to play, right?
Mm-hmm.
Not take ourselves so seriously, because there's enough things that come up in life that are serious.
Yeah, that's right. I'm going to read a few more comments from our audience. I'll put the spotlight on all of us so that I'm sharing this. And some of the lovely things. I will put the 6 up again in a moment. Or you can just scroll up in the chat box. They're right there. So Eleanor Joy writes, what about soul contracts? I'll come as this person with certain quirks to help you grow into the love that's in your soul. This teaching has made a lot of sense to me over recent years. So in a moment, I'd love for you all to comment on that. Dia writes, it is said that each and every one of us has every aspect of the human in us. Judgment of any sort is ours to ascend into the higher frequency, to free ourselves to live in those other dimensions. We can see anything according to our own level of growth. For me, this is Yeshua's major teaching. Jeffrey writes, Reverend Jeffrey writes, as I center into the sanctuary of my soul, I'm reminded how inextricably connected each of us is with all of creation, everything in the invisible and visible realm. I behold the miraculous nature of life that animates, sustains, and orchestrates all of creation. Our Loveolution leads us to our Weevolution. Drina is asking for you to play music. I'm not putting any pressure on you there. But that's the third request we've gotten from you. I've been like, I don't want to, put pressure on Larisa.
I have to get out my harmonium. I guess I could sing a cappella. My
Oh,
harmonium.
that'd be awesome. Is that a possibility?
It's a possibility. I'd have to unzip it and see if I could get it out in here. We had a little snafu with my RV door. I'm at Shiloh right now. And
Shiloh is the ranch in Sedona.
yeah, we're out at the ranch right now, which means I'm in the RV. That's my little background. And the RV door got off its track. So if I can get out my harmonium, I can always sing a cappella too.
Okay, cool. We would love that. What I'll do is I'll take a little break in a moment because I do have some messages from Omashar. And so I'm going to show some photos and talk about Omashar while I'm doing that if you want. One other comment from Diara asking, I love the compassion during the conversation of neurotypical natures. So that's cool. Do either of you want to comment on what Eleanor had brought up about soul contracts? Trish.
There are 8 billion people on this planet, give or take, many. I think we're all in a soul contract. I think that family members past are in soul contracts. I don't know about you, but I still think about my stepdad every day. Think about my grandparents. I'm in a totally soul contract with them. And I think that thinking about it as a soul contract of love, of working it out for yourself, is a really, really beautiful and radical way to step into it. Yeah. It's like, if I could meet 8 billion people on this planet in my lifetime, I would certainly try. But I don't actually think that that is possible. So I'm just going to stick with the 10,000 people that 15,000 people that I'll probably meet in my lifetime. And I'll just assume that those are soul contracts.
And Trish, haven't you felt like in your life, like when you've had some intense experiences with people, have you found that those experiences, even though they were really hard, like it brought forth something within you that didn't exist before that now you value?
Oh yeah. I mean, those are places that I had to learn how to evolve my own compassion or evolve my own boundaries or standards or naivety about the world. I had to really choose to step out of victimhood and into power.
Yeah. And
to choose to not see people as a fabrication of something that I think they are.
Say that again. That's a good one.
I actually have to choose to not see people as a fabrication of something that I think they are. Here's an example. I'm just going to give you a real life example. Y'all know that my Instagram was down for like 6 weeks, up and forth and back and forth. And there was someone who was reporting me actively. And it was totally just getting slammed. And someone was like, oh, it must be your ex. And I was like, in the past, I probably been like, yeah, F that guy. And now I was like, how arrogant it would be to think that this is like one person in the world would be like out to get me. I'm sure there's many, and it's not really about me, is it?
Mm.
Right? So it's like, do I make him into a villain continuously for the rest of my life or his life or like whoever I'm going to talk to about it? Do I have time for that? No. I was like, I'm just not going to, I don't know. I don't know if it was him. I don't care. I blocked a group of people, like 150 people. Who knew? Who knows? So it's like that. Do I keep playing the fabrication of who I think they are based on some sort of harm that I perceived that they caused me? That's a lot of work.
It is a lot of work, and it's there's an incredible opportunity to like feel into what that's calling forth within you to heal, right? Like that's the big piece.
Exactly.
I've like felt that like I have experienced, as I'm sure most of us have, like what felt like betrayal, like deep betrayal.
Yeah.
And I realized when that was happening, it's like, you know what? You know, I always talk about forgiveness all the time and unconditional love. Like I'm all for unconditional love, but it was really hard. It was really challenging to lean into that unconditional love, but it gave me that opportunity. Like here's a human that I love so much that totally betrayed me. And now here's this opportunity for me to really walk my talk about unconditional love. And so that question, like about how we feel about soul contracts, I really felt like, I think this is a soul contract. I think that he showed up in that way for me in my life so that I could really learn unconditional love, like really, really learn unconditional love and not just like talk about it, but like, okay, if I love no matter what, and this person hurt me, that I feel so hurt and so betrayed by this, like I really get to do it. Like this is where the rubber meets the road, right? And I, believe that was a soul contract. And it was like, I actually think, well, thank you. Like I know that sounds really strange, but I'm like, but thank you for that opportunity, because I really learned so much more about unconditional love. And I can honestly say that I gave myself the biggest gift, because I don't hold any resentment at all. Like it just left my body. I don't hold any of it. And I still love that person like the same, if not more, because I'm like, okay, this happened on purpose. This is like a real soul contract that happens so that I could be given this opportunity in this lifetime.
Mhm.
What does Rob Bresney say in Pronoia? It's that everything's an opportunity to, I'm totally not doing it justice. That the universe is conspiring for your highest, most beneficial good, purpose, whatever. It's conspiring for you. And I think it's like, am I taking the choice?
Even when it doesn't feel like it, especially a lot of times when it doesn't feel like it's like, okay, it's like it reminds me of a blacksmith, that's putting, the horseshoe into the fire and it's getting tempered. It's like that fire is there to help temper who we are in this life, because we come in with all these preferences and aversions, we just do. And we come in with a certain unique little funky personality that has its gifts, but also has its limitations. Like we don't see what we don't see. And those, what we don't see rubs up against others. Right. So we're kind of like the little irritant, so that you can look at it as an irritant that you're like, I want this out of my life. Or you could look at it, the irritant that creates the pearl within the oyster. That we're all kind of little irritants for each other in different ways so that we can grow into something even more beautiful in life.
Exactly.
That's beautiful. That is beautiful. Jeffrey Colbrook writes, I think Marianne Williamson is a great example with this in her response to the difficult, nasty political environment. And also our friends Neil Donald Walsh and Humanities team has been addressing a lot of this. Eleanor Joy writes, for me, this wisdom has helped me to feel more compassionate, say from each of my parents for playing that role. It meant that they were off the track of pure love to help me find my own way to love, and placing my focus on my inner love rather than needing their approval. It also helps me to truly experience forgiveness. And
Yep.
Dia writes, right on, Trish. These are pearly wisdoms. Ayada writes, how great to hear that you have a message from Momo Show. Yes, I will get to that in a moment. And so, yeah. You know, I've done a lot of, and some of you have heard me say this because I've referenced it frequently, but the people that I've worked with on near-death experiences, the great researchers that have studied hundreds and hundreds of people, the bottom line is always that the meaning of life, people who have a near-death experience and they, you know, remember the meaning of life, or they're shown it by Jesus or their deceased relative, the meaning of life is we're here to learn to love, starting with ourselves. And, you know, the title of tonight's show is about the power of acceptance. And there it is. It's like learning to accept ourselves, to accept our neighbors, to accept each other. It doesn't mean we have to like or condone hurtful behavior, but we can learn how to accept certainly to accept everything that's happened. We can't change the past. We can only change our relationship to the past. So again, the power of acceptance. And I'd love to hear from Trish and Larisa, kind of your thoughts about the power of acceptance.
Well, that's the whole thing, isn't it? I feel like acceptance is a bridge to love, because a lot of times we don't necessarily, when we're in a space of being confronted with what doesn't make sense to us, what doesn't feel good, if we're triggered by ourselves or by others, we may not have access to that love right in that moment. But what is easier to access is that acceptance. And for me, I have a tool, a radical self-acceptance tool that I created over the years with my clients. And it's a tool where it's acknowledging that it's okay that I feel whatever that feeling is. And that feeling may be like my jealousy. Maybe I'm jealous, you know, there's somebody that I wish I had, that I don't have what I want. So I accept, rather than making myself wrong for an emotion that society deems as unacceptable. Jealousy would be one, right? It's like, it's okay that I feel jealous. You know, I completely love and accept myself. It's okay that I'm feeling frustrated and upset that I'm not a part of whatever. It comes and it goes, like the river that flows through the infinite. I am the infinite, many faces of the infinite. And when I remember that, it's like, you know what? This is just, it's an emotion, it's a feeling in it, and it's moving through me. It's not right, it's not wrong, which we've been talking about, right? It's not good, it's not bad. It just is. And when I begin to say these words to myself, it's okay, and I feel like it's so important that we say this to ourselves, that becomes a bridge, that radical self-acceptance becomes the bridge to compassion and love.
Oh, I love you guys. Beautiful.
You know,
Yes, it's true. And we know, because we love you.
many of you know my definition of love.
Go for it.
Well, I mean, you can tell me, can't you, Scott? You've heard it like probably 500,000 times. Like, does anyone else in the room know what it is?
Tell us again.
Just in case you forgot, it's the radical acceptance of what is. What's reality now? What is happening without needing to change it or fix it or solve it. Anybody else in here like to be fixed or solved when you have feelings? Yeah.
Yes.
And I think about that all the time, is like, again, the and I'll answer the radical piece versus self-acceptance piece. And I think that the definition between self-acceptance and the radical self-acceptance, I think, is that really looking at the I'm going to use this word, even though that we've been talking about not using these types of words, just for the driving this point home, the ugliest parts of self. I don't believe that there are ugly parts of self, but the deepest, most crunchy, the I can't look parts of self, and to actually step to them and say, this is part of me, and I can own that this is part of me. Can I step to Scott and see him for all of his humanity? And yes, I hate to break it to you, he's got things too.
No, don't tell anybody.
And I say to him and say, hey, I see all of you, and I can see you in that. Now, again, it's, I can see you and I can hold you and I can accept you there. I don't need to change you. And let's say it's someone in your life who maybe is abusive to you in some way. It's your responsibility to manage your proximity to that person. Now, if I have someone who's abusive in my life, who keeps harming me, even though I love them, maybe they're guilting me of some kind, and I keep moving towards that direction, and I keep complaining that they're harmful. Who is actively participating? Right? And so when it's the radical acceptance of what is like, can I see all of the things that I don't want to see? Oh my God, how dare it be part of me? Yes, I am both the most loving angel as well as the most murderous C word. I know I can't say that word here. I am all of those things, everything in between. And can I see even that person who's abusive, be like, wow, this person is a full, whole human with some really interesting strategies. Again, to find unity is to actually accept that we're different.
Mm-hmm.
Is to be like, yes, this person likes to be off the grid and do this thing. This person has political beliefs that look like this. I've got things that look like that. Maybe I'm not as present of a friend, or maybe I can't seem to show up on a Wednesday night call effectively. Can you accept me there? You know, but we all have our things, right?
Yes, we do. We
Thank God.
do. I mean, I was thinking about this the other night about, have I felt like let down in any way? Like, is there anyone in my life at all that I have never felt let down by in some way? You know, like, and I'm like, it's hard to like find that, you know, like, and I don't mean that they really let me down, but where I had a moment of like, you know, like a little like on the inside. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, well, that's with myself as well. Like
Yeah.
that's a part of humanity, and we're given, I swear we're given these blind spots in our personalities as gifts, just as much as we're given what we think of as gifts.
Yes.
Because if we didn't have these blind spots, then we wouldn't really need each other in the way that we do to grow, right? Because if I can't see in certain ways, then it's like, I need your eyes, you know, because I'm not being able to see in that way, right? So it creates even more puzzle pieces, like the need for the we rather than just the me.
Yes.
But my me needs the we, and the we needs the me in order to grow.
Well, yes, 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 yes.
Well, I think this might be a good moment to just kind of give a little update about our beloved Omar Shar. And I'm going to start by letting people know, I should put myself on camera, shouldn't I? He has been visiting his mom in England. It's been hard. Her dementia is pretty bad. As he said, he's been having the same conversation with her 20 times a day, which reminds me of my mother during her final years as well. So I can kind of relate to that. But it's been a good trip. He's definitely looking forward to coming home, and he'll be with us on the Saturday night, August 26th show. Will be his next show with us live again. And so we'll certainly look forward to that. And this is a special video he made for us that takes a meditation from Barbara Marx Hubbard, and he adds music to it. So here we go. This is about 7 minutes long. So you've got plenty of time, Larisa, if you want to get your harmonium. No pressure, but you got about 7 minutes here.
Thank you. I will mute and turn off my screen for a moment.
Okay, and here's our beloved Omar Shar with something special for us for tonight, which I'm attempting to open. Come on, come to daddy. Give me a moment. Wow. Oh, it's not wanting to open. Let's try it a different way then. I'm going to try it this way. Open with QuickTime Player. What do you do when you click on something and it's supposed to open and it's not opening? It means that my computer is probably doing too many things at once.
You say abracadabra.
Abracadabra, come and be with us. Omar Shar, a special video. I'm clicking away and it's not opening. Well, that has happened a couple times before. Dia, by the way, I'm gonna, while waiting to see if it just opens, a couple more comments. Here's a question from Eleanor Joy, and this is a good question for you, dear Trish. So Trish, if you can turn your camera back on. Okay, it opened. Yay, here we go. We're off the hook.
Welcome. Okay, take a few deep breaths. Close your eyes, perhaps put your hand on your heart, and let your eyes soften. Let the tension go from your jaw and your throat. And with a deep breath, free the tension from the chest and the abdomen. And begin to let that breath of life flow through your body. A gentle flow. The river of life. Be at peace with yourself. Let your mind have a vacation. Let go of all anticipation, all expectation. I am love. I love the source of all creation above all else. My neighbor as myself, and myself as an awakening conscious being. I am wisdom. I distinguish what is breaking down from what is breaking through, and I let go of what is breaking down. I am faith. I know there is a perfect design of creation. Each of us is a vital element in that design. I know I am acting in perfect harmony with that design. I am courage. I know that I am not working alone. I am surrounded by mighty companions on this earth and in the universe beyond. Together we are working towards our inevitable awakening. I am patience. The timing is not in my hands. I live in eternity and I act in the presence. And I am fulfilled. I surrender all need to know the timing and I act in joy. I am power. To the degree that I empower others, I am now empowered. I am surrender. Not my will, but thy will be done on earth as it is throughout the cosmos. Namaste. When there's nowhere left to turn, and you're feeling kind of low, slow down, and breathe me in. When the smile has left your face, and the tears roll down your cheeks, slow down, and breathe me in. When your river's running dry, and you're driven to your knees, slow down, and breathe me in. I am watching you, waiting for you to let my love into that lonely life of yours. Listen to me, and we can be together free eternally. When you're feeling out of touch, and you need someone to hold, slow down, and breathe me in.
I put the spotlight on you, Ian and Eleanor Joy, since you usually are dancing to the music. And there's our beautiful Nitya. Of course, when I'm playing a video, it's hard to show everybody. So, but how beautiful it was to just have a little taste of our beloved Omashar. Yeah, we definitely love him very, very much. And we love Larisa Stow. Hi, Larisa.
Hello, Scott. I love
Hey,
you.
I would love for you to tell us a little bit, because of course we are going to be celebrating this week that Bhakti Love is happening. You're going to be there in October. Tell us a little bit about Bhakti Love, the festival, and what you're going to be doing there.
Well, first of all, it's beautiful. It's a beautiful location. It's over at Lake Isabella, and it reminds me, it's very organic. You know, it's a very just sweet, sweet space of people coming together and chanting and dancing and community connecting, like community really getting to come back together and be together. We're used there. It's interesting how there's quite the community, and now after being a part of this community for so long, it's like going out there and seeing so many beautiful souls that I recognize, that I get to hug, in person. It's just so beautiful to be together and to be with the other musical artists. I believe I'm playing at 6:30 on Saturday the 14th. And I know Jayu Tal's playing right after us. So it's going to be a beautiful night. And I believe I'll be teaching a workshop there as well. And haven't put together that yet, but I think that will be happening too.
Beautiful. Yeah, I'm doing a pre-recorded show you tell tomorrow for the Bhakti Love. And speaking of Bhakti Love, thank you first of all for bringing in your harmonium and spontaneously. And what would you like to share with us? Is there anything that comes to mind that is a good way to kind of weave together this show?
Yes, I think so. I was feeling into this song that I wrote that's all about, and it's so funny because this this song, the inspiration came from an experience I had with Benj. Benj is my, co-writer and musical collaborator. A lot of times you all see him with me. He plays guitar, a lot on these shows, but he plays bass in our band. And he lives in on our property. And he has been a part of the community for a while. And I used to have like parts of him that would drive me a little crazy. And to be honest, and I had this one beautiful experience with Divine Mother, and she really showed me, because I noticed that my heart was a bit shut down, and she showed me that I had been judging him, and that if I wanted my heart to open back up, that I needed to fully breathe all of him in.
Mm.
And I had this experience, because it did come from Divine Mother, of and really being shown my own judgment, to open, just completely just open my heart. And when I opened my heart, it's like I felt all of his stars. I felt his whole universe and everything that he is. It just came rushing into me. And I never looked at it in the same way. It's like I was shown his past lifetimes and just the fullness of his soul. And it blew me away so much that it became this song. And
That's perfect. What a beautiful story. Thank you. And Deborah Juliet writes, so true and so beautiful, Larisa. Deborah being very connected to the beloved and the mother. She loves the Divine Mother very much.
and Ma asks a lot of us. doesn't she? You know, she asks us to open our heart to the full spectrum of humanity. And that's what we've been talking about tonight, about becoming curious and really receiving each other and in the fullness and all that we are, even if it doesn't always make sense, to open. And that unifies us. So this song is inspired by Benj, but it reaches beyond him because it's really about all of us. I breathe in love, I breathe in life. I am the earth, the wind, the sun, the sea, the light. I breathe you in so I can grow. I let the magic of your stars come crashing in my soul. Hallelujah, hallelujah. Hallelujah, hallelujah. I breathe in love, I breathe in life. I am the earth, the wind, the sun, the sea, the light. I breathe you in so I can grow. I let the magic of your stars come crashing in my soul. Hallelujah, hallelujah. Hallelujah, hallelujah. Breathe in life. Thank you.
so much. Thank you so much. It's beautiful. Nothing to say. Let's just all practice what we've heard today. Let's notice when we're being judgmental, and let's replace that with curiosity. And that's how we create peace in the world. And oh, Trish is back. So here's Trish. Self-love show on Thursday morning. Anything you want to share with us about self-love show, Trish?
Yeah, Molly Mandelberg is on tomorrow, and she is very precious. She's the copywriter on my website, and many people I know. She also really loves to help people write their story. I don't know what she's teaching on.
Well, self-love show tomorrow morning, 10 o'clock Pacific time. Always want to encourage people to watch that. And of course, we can learn much more about Larisa. Go on Facebook to her Shakti Love Warriors. Anything else you want to remind people of? Of course, LarisaStow.com is where all things Larisa Stow live.
And we're going to be at the Sunfire Festival coming up. That Shakti Tribe is going to be out there for this beautiful festival. We're going to be there on August 25th. The whole band, which is really ecstatic when we're all together. It's such a blessing, to be there and to be live, with you all, like in person, and to be able to connect and hug and get close. And it's so special. We're going to be out in Phoenix on the 20, I think it's the 7th. Oh, I'm also doing a play shop out at the Sunfire Fest as well on Sunday. And then in Sedona, we're going to do a concert on Tuesday, the 29th. So lots of wonderful opportunities if you're in the area to come out and just to be in that devotion and the music medicine and in the love and that beautiful vortex of love together. It's so good. It's like one of those things, like you don't even know how much you need it until like the next day. It's almost like because you wake up and you just feel completely calibrated in a different way. And that's what I hear, from folks when they come out to these events. It's like it's like just realigns you, helps you to remember, even deeper, like how much ecstasy that we can feel in our bodies together, and how good it feels to be alive and to be human and to be sharing together.
Thank you for all the wonderful, wonderful things that you provide. Sylvia is asking, by the way, if Sunfire will be Zoomed. Are people going to be able to tune into that online?
I don't know, to be honest with you. I'm not sure about that, if it is. But I would check out the website. They probably will share about that if that's an opportunity, at Sunfire.
Well, thank you both. And I do actually have an announcement that just happened. So, I'm in Ashland, Oregon, and we're doing wonderful events. And tomorrow night, you all hopefully remember Jamishka. Jamishka have been on this show before, and they're doing a live show in Ashland at the Haven. And I just got permission from them that we are going to live stream it. So I will send out the link that we'll be using for the live stream. And I probably am going to use the same link that we do our meditation, our twin ray meditation with. So take a look in your email. Join us tomorrow night for meditation at 6:30, and then a really fun Jamishka concert shortly after that. And of course, we'll be back on Saturday night celebrating the Bhakti Love Festival that Larisa is going to be a big part of. And thank you, everybody. I'm going to go to gallery view for everybody to say, turn on your cameras. I know a lot of you have your cameras off, but turn on your cameras, wave. And thank you, Trish. Thank you, Larisa. And thank you, everybody, for being with us. for such an important conversation. Thank you so very much. Much love, everybody. And hopefully we'll see you tomorrow night, 6:30, for Twin Ray meditation and then Shamishka. Good night, everybody.
Good night.